are now listening to Philly Sports Pulse with Jesse Sharon and Adam Den, powered by 302 Birds. Let's take it to the show.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome in to the Philly Sports Pulse, brought to you by Pizza and Tick Pick. I don't know. They're not exactly our sponsors, but they're sponsors of 302 Birds. Anyway, we have a jam-packed episode for you guys. It's going to be just a warning, very NBA-centric, very NBA-heavy, because, my God, I did not think the Sixers would be doing things because I don't trust the Sixers, but, man, Mike Yancey's on a heater. But we have an even bigger surprise. Adam Den finally is back in the house. He's been killing it with the FIFA stuff for Delaware Online. Welcome back, my friend.
Happy to be here, my friend. It's been a fun time, and I am loving the new intro. I will say that. I give all the props in the world to Jess for putting that together, and for our University of Delaware buddy for giving us the plug there. But yeah, excited to break all this down. We went to the game together last night, and there were a lot of thoughts shared, so that will continue into this. That's for sure.
There was. Well, you know what? Let's actually hit the Phillies real quick before we get. Okay. I like to tease the audience a little bit, if you will, with the main sort of attraction. But like you said, we were both there last night. The Phillies got a big win last night. Won the series. Lost the final game of the series today versus the Pirates. Although, I'm going to be honest, I would not want to even show up if I was them. It is so hot out. So, yeah. I don't necessarily blame them today, especially since you had a fifth starter and Rengel going today. But
Pirates had to play in it too.
They did. But, I mean, the Phillies have been hot right now. They've been killing it ever since Don Mattingly took over. They have one of the best records in baseball. The bats are finally, waking up to an extent. Even Trey Turner's been nice the last couple of days, which is not something I expected to say, at any point this season, seeing how, things started for him. But you're kind of loving, if you're a Phillies fan, you're loving what you're seeing as we head into the All-Star break.
Yeah, Jess, I think there's certainly parts of it that you're loving, and we saw that last night, right? To be able to have the bats come together in the way they did against – I mean, we paid for a pitching duel, right? I was telling my girlfriend Sanai, I was like, man, I paid to go see Skeens and Wheeler, and I'm almost upset that with what I'm watching right now. But it was very fun to see, and it has been fun to see Brandon Marsh continue the streak he's been on. Like you said, Trey Turner really – putting it together here. Bryce Harper is on an absolute tear. I still don't understand how that guy is an all-star starter. Just really stellar run for the offense. I think, there are some worries about the starting pitching rotation that have come about over the course of this series. The Aaron Nola frustration continues. Alan Rengel as a fifth starter is continually a little bit frustrating, but it's never going to be perfect, and this offense to be doing what they are after the streak they were on early in the season, I think is very impressive. And still, I think 3.5 games out from the Braves. So,
yeah. It's I don't want to say anything, but you've been keeping out a watchful eye on the MLB these last couple of weeks because of something cool that may happen in your sphere later on in the next couple of weeks. But, that being said, who's been some of your, biggest snubs, or not just for the Phillies, but maybe can you speak for around the MLB?
Yeah, Jess. I mean, it's hard for me to go there yet. I've been very World Cup these last couple weeks. But I've really enjoyed diving into, I think, the entirety of the league. I outside of the All-Star game, really, it's been really fun. That Yankees Red Sox series was a lot of fun for me, and seeing Boston kind of surge back into the AL wildcard race. That's something that I've been really watching, and I think going to be a big storyline for the second half of this Major League Baseball season, and just the AL wildcard in general, right? You still have the Mariners trying to rebound from what has been probably a disappointing season for them. Same with the Blue Jays. The Yankees are technically in there and battling with the Rays for first place. Like, that's an exciting division battle at the top. The Orioles are still somehow in this thing, despite I think what every Orioles fan would largely regard as a pretty disappointing season so far. So just a lot of narratives in that AL wildcard race. That's been the most fun thing for me to keep track of over the course of these next couple of weeks. And excited to, I have no problem saying it. I mean, I'm going to be covering the All-Star game. So it's going to be very exciting, and we're going to dive into it.
Dude, I just want to say congrats, man. That is so awesome. And totally, I am so excited for you. You've been killing it at the World Cup. We don't have a lower third for this, but, you've gotten a couple games in now.
Mm-hmm.
What's that experience been like?
Yeah, it's been great, man. Everyone has been wonderful to me, and the games have been wonderful themselves. It's an experience that I think is unlike anything that we have otherwise in this country. I know the NFL is the most popular sport in the world, but it does no justice to capturing the atmosphere that occurs at these games. And we've had a couple really fun ones, not just in Philly, but I mean, all over throughout the day. Even Spain-Austria this morning, a game that I think we had no expectation of being fun in any way. Portugal is on right now. That's been a really incredible game so far. I'll continue to have my eye on that. But I'm really excited as this continues to see, how this shakes out, because there is a large group of contenders, maybe larger than we've seen in any of the past World Cups, without a real clear favorite besides maybe France, if you want to stretch that a little bit. So I'm excited to see how it turns out.
Yeah. Well, something else totally out of this world, totally mind-blowing, totally exciting. I think that is something that cannot be overstated.
Mm-hmm.
Jaylen Brown is a Sixer. What in the world? I will offer some context for yesterday. Actually, probably about this time. Mm-hmm. Well, actually, it was more like I think 5 o'clock. So I'm driving, and our 302 Birds group chat goes nuts. And shout out Chaos Chris. He goes Sixers, and he's not the biggest Sixers guy. So I immediately thought, oh my God, Mike Gansey was an idiot and traded Embiid or something. I don't know, because I up until this point, I don't know if I was the biggest Mike Gansey fan. I was not. I was not impressed what he did with James Harden, but I go to Twitter because that's what one does, and Shams Charania drops Jalen Brunson to Philly for Paul George. Let me just put this out there. I, along with a lot of Sixers fans, have been weary of this team and their ability to go far because of the huge contracts that Paul George and Joel Embiid have right now. I would say Paul George has a little bit of a net negative, a little bit at least of a net negative contract. He's in his late 30s, and he's been inconsistent. He's had his moments for sure. He's been a guy that when he came back from his suspension, I thought he actually was pretty solid. Mm-hmm. But you trade him for a guy that is a NBA Finals MVP, a guy that had statistically his best career, 4th in the NBA in points per game. Mm-hmm. I genuinely don't know what the Celtics were thinking when they did this deal. It is unbelievable. And for the Sixers, this automatically, I think, makes them Eastern Conference frontrunners. Obviously, the Knicks are there because they just won the chip. But I would argue that the Celtics downgraded. I don't trust the Heat with Giannis and Bam. I just don't. The Bucks obviously, lost Giannis. The Pacers need to get healthy. The Hawks are fun, but they're a young team. The Wizards, yeah, they got Anthony Davis, but then again, they're a young team. I don't know. I think it wouldn't be nuts to say the Sixers are a shoo-in for the NBA Finals with this move. And we'll talk about it later. They made another one today. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely gonna. The New York Knicks are the best team in the Eastern Conference. They just had one of the most dominant playoff runs in NBA history. I honestly, I think it would be disrespectful to not consider them in that way. But I was just as shocked as you were, Jess. This is, truly a great move for Philadelphia, and one that comes at a crucial time, right? You really think about it. This is a contract in the Paul George contract that you were going to have to take a first to move. That's $50 million on the cap that Paul George is paid, and it was going to take a first-round pick to get off of it, probably. You basically gave up a first-round pick for Jaylen Brown. There was only another first-round pick in that deal. You gave up one first-round pick for a 29-year-old who's coming off the best season of his career, was basically first-team All-NBA if Cade Cunningham's collapsed lung hadn't been forgotten. He was, so incredible as an on-ball player for the first time in his career, right? We dealt with the turnover woes and the kind of inconsistency of his dribble earlier in his career. Was able to work a little better as a driver and as a creator more without Jason Tatum, and was really incredible in doing so. So just adding another explosive presence to this Philadelphia 76ers offense. And then, I keep seeing people say that this is, potentially a downgrade defensively. I don't believe that to be true in any way. Jaylen Brown is a potential all-defensive team player, and even though his defense slipped a little bit a year ago, still adds a ton of value on that end. I'm tentative as to the long-term implications, and I'm sure we'll get into what this bench looks like. I guess the short-term implications that would be. And there are a lot of teams in the East besides the New York Knicks who I think have done real things to upgrade this offseason. But I'm in love with this for Philadelphia. And for Boston, I think, yes, this is pretty horrible. And you love to see it be horrible. But it also is understandable that they're going to look into this long-term window after Jason Tatum is, after they see if Jason Tatum is healthy, to either clear cap space to rebuild or to have a max slot and the picks to acquire another superstar next to him without the trust that they had in Jaylen Brown. So while I am not a fan of it in any way because of what it does in the short term, I think the bet there is that there will be something for them in the long term, and that is something I completely disagree with. But I think is the narrative. I will say that.
Yeah, I listen, Brad Stevens, he's a good GM. He brought them a championship in 24, but to just want him gone because Jaylen Brown said words that he enjoyed this season more than 24, and they thought that Jaylen Brown was trying to be Tatum's equal. That isn't that what you want? Don't you want two elite players going hand in hand and making it work? I the whole thing with AJ Brown. People are in my DMs. They're like, oh my God, this guy's going to be the next A.J. Brown. And I hope it's not. And I don't know. I just I don't see it right now. And if it happens, I don't think it's going to be this year. I don't think it's going to be a short-term issue. It's going to be a long-term issue. And you can talk about all you want about the picks. You know, we basically gave up the first. If this gives us a ring, man, I'm sorry. Like the Michael Jordan meme, F them picks. Like I don't care. I really don't. And the Sixers, again, we'll get into it, but they for the most part, I think, have made pretty nice strides in building around VJ, around Tyrese, around, now Jaylen Brown to become a championship, contender. You can definitely talk about the teams, the West, especially if, Golden State gets LeBron, which we'll get into the LeBron thing. I know some people are like, oh my God, he's not going to come to the Sixers. We at least got to touch on it. But, there are some heavy hitters in the West for sure. The Spurs, obviously, made it to the NBA Finals. They have Wemby, who is, the 7-foot god amongst men. So, I'm not going to say we're like Kenny Perkins on ESPN that the Sixers are obviously, NBA champions or whatever the heck he said. But, I think the Sixers are a serious threat. I think, that there are definitely concerns with the players that we lost. But, I've liked so far what we brought to the table. And you know what? Actually, let's get into it. Because the Sixers bring in Simmons, not Ben Simmons, and I do not want them touching. Oh, Simons. Okay, close enough. They brought in Simons, not Simmons, and I don't want. I don't want the Sixers touching a Simmons, with a 20-foot pole. But they brought in a guy that can come up off the bench and give you threes. This is a team, in my opinion, that really struggled off the bench. I mean, Barlow's nice, but Quentin Grimes, I really thought that he didn't take that step that the Sixers needed when they traded Jared McCain. And Quentin Grimes got a very nice contract. I may add that is not something that I would have, I think, paid for. And you get a guy for, apparently he took a little bit of not a pay cut, but he took less than what people, I guess, expected him to get. Yeah. But what did you think of the Simons deal?
Yeah, it's a good deal and continues what has been, I think, a good offseason of retooling for Mike Yancey, right? You needed another ball dominant scorer off the bench to alleviate those Tyrese Maxey minutes, right? This is a guy who played 40 plus minutes almost every night a year ago, and that simply couldn't happen as a formula because when we got down to the postseason, he was completely worn down. So I like it in terms of that. I think a lot of people have kind of freaked out over it. I don't know that Anthony Simons is underrated. I actually kind of fall on the opposite of that take. I think he's perfectly properly rated. The injury issues have been a serious issue over the last couple of years. And there are certainly defensive concerns. That's why he kind of fell out of the rotation in Boston towards the All-Star break, and then they eventually traded him for Nikola Vucevic. But for $6 million, I'll absolutely take it. And they go out and they add Dean Wade as well, who I think actually is underrated. Dean Wade is a guy who is a incredible perimeter defender. A lot of people were like, oh, he got exposed defensively in the Detroit series. That's not true. He played really, really incredible defense on Tobias Harris, which was his job. They would pursue him a lot. on switches against Cade Cunningham, because that's what you do, right? You get the bigger guy on the smaller guy. That's how it works. But as purely an off-ball defender on wings, he's going to be absolutely perfect. And then, I mean, what he brings you offensively from the corner is incredible. So I think he's going to be a great contributor and a great part of this. I still think this is the worst bench in basketball. And yes, I went through all 30 NBA teams to see if I thought it was, and I do think it is. So they have a lot of work to do, but there is still room to do that work. There are a couple guys in free agency, there are a couple guys in trade market. I really like Spencer Jones from the Denver Nuggets. I think he's probably going to re-sign there, but if you could try to pursue him in any way, I think that's a guy who I'd be a really big fan of. There's a guy, Contavious Caldwell-Pope, who's a bit of a headache, but and a bit on the older side, but I think he could be a nice 3-and-D wing. Bruce Brown is still in Denver, I believe. I think he is signed for the next couple years. He is a guy who I would love if he was a free agent, but I believe he is locked down for another season in Denver. Max Strus is a contract that you could potentially look to get to be a part of if Mike Gansey looked to pursue that deal. I'm sure Cleveland would love to try to get off of that, but that is $16 million in the cap, and all this cap stuff hurts my head, Jesse. I've spent too much time having to try to figure it out with the taxpayer mid-level exception and how much of it is used and blah, 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 blah. My brain has exploded over the last couple of days. But
dude, I my head can't, and this is something that maybe you can help me sort of get that second for the for the Jaylen Brown thing, right? That second pick. That second first round pick, the whole swap deal.
Yes. I
cannot wrap my head around how that works.
Yeah.
When do we have to give it away? When do we keep, the Clippers pick? All that my head is going to explode trying to figure this out.
We do keep the Clippers pick. That is correct. We do keep the Clippers pick in 2028. This is a 76ers pick, which if it ends up being between 1 to 8, I believe, if I'm recalling correctly, it is to Boston. And then I think from 9, if it is between 9 to 30, so it's technically top 8 protected. So if it's between 9 to 30, then I believe it is swapped in some kind of package between Philly, Boston, and then I think it's either the Clippers or Atlanta, if I'm remembering correctly. And I believe the Sixers would get the worst of whoever, gets the worst pick in that kind of conglomerate. So it is not, in that way, it is not really giving up a first round pick. Unless it's in the top 8. Then it would be tough. But the hope is that the Philadelphia 76ers 2 years from now, which would technically be the second year of the Jaylen Brown experiment and the second to last year of Joel Embiid's contract, the hope is that they are still a relevant enough contender that they are not picking within the top 8 in the NBA draft.
Yeah. Well, I mean, most of your damage does come, well, I guess not, but a lot of your damage in the draft does come in the top 8. But, I mean, listen, LeBron Filon, he was drafted in the 20s. So, yeah. And I actually, you know what? Man, you haven't been on in so long. I got to get your take on the Filon pick.
Yeah, I love LeBron Filon. He was one of my guys. I always grab a couple guys out of the draft who I think are kind of being undervalued. I think, watching his film, I thought a lot of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander out of Kentucky, which I think could be said about a lot of dudes in this NBA draft for better or worse. And I in no way think he's going to be Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I'll say that right now, especially since he is nowhere near the defender that Shai is and probably never will be. But he moves in a very similar way. He's a great driver. A real touch around the rim, and a fantastic 3-level scorer. He really improved from beyond this season after really struggling from there a season ago. I was watching him last season. I was like, oh man, if this guy could get a shot, he'd be a really fun NBA player. And he ended up getting in and being a really fun contributor for that Alabama team. So I think it's going to be a real perfect pick. Like I said, it's just guys eating those maxi minutes, right? You saw it last postseason without Jared McCain there. having to run the offense with point guard VJ Edgecombe is an experience that I never really want to be a part of again. So I think, having Philon, having Simons be able to eat those will be fantastic. Yeah, Todd, he was really great at Alabama. I agree. Shout out the Tigers.
Yeah, and like I said, in the previous show, I thought that, but my biggest concern with Philon, like you said, this bench sucks. It's really bad. I definitely think they've made some moves, to possibly counter that. I think we can maybe slot his bench. Maybe he doesn't start, and maybe I don't know, because he's not exactly the points per game guy that a lot of people expected. Or one, I guess we want. So maybe he fills in there.
You probably want Dinwiddie to start. You think giving you fluidity and defense and spacing. So Philon coming off the bench is probably the ideal scenario.
Yeah, that's true. And the fact, the cardiac Sixers in the third period, it's like clockwork. I think they got better as the playoffs went on in that third period. But my God, it was again, not an experience that I ever want to go through again. So maybe, Dean Wayne does bring that sort of experience. And to hit on Dean Wayne a little bit, I have seen this stat that the Cavs were better with him on the floor versus him off of it. I forget what the stat.
Yeah, he has a positive on off. Yeah.
So I maybe that means something. And I thought the Cavs minus James Harden. I thought they were obviously the next, kick the crap out of them. But, I thought they were a really solid team. That rotation was really nice. So coming in, especially, Gansey, obviously, he's not going to say, I don't think he's going to see day-to-day operations. But, that familiarity with Gansey, it was something I'm sure led to that sort of signing happening. So, I like the Dean Wade signing a lot. So, I think the bench, it's still a problem though. I would agree. Barlow being one of your top guys. Yeah, I hate it.
And I love Don Barlow. I went on a podcast 2 hours ago and I said it. I said I have so much fun watching Don Barlow play basketball. I do not wish upon any individual to watch Don Barlow play basketball for 30 minutes a night after having to do it earlier in the season. So you need a backup big. You need a backup wing. And there's options. I threw out Matisse Thybulle earlier. That's a guy who's sitting on the market. What he brings you defensively. The shooting has not gotten any better, I'll tell you that. But there's a lot of familiarity with this organization. Why not? So there are ways and avenues to kind of circumvent the issues that kind of are staring them in the face right now. And I'm hopeful they do it, because I think if they do, there is a legitimate shot that I don't think they're going to win the East, but that they could contend to win a couple rounds in this NBA playoffs.
A guy that has been sort of floated around, and I can't stop seeing his name. Ben Simmons, and to an extent, I'm not saying you get. I'm as far on the Ben Simmons. Don't get him trained as physically possible. But if there was one thing that I could give him props for, was the perimeter defense. I thought it was pretty solid when he was a Philadelphia 76er. So. And that is something that the Sixers, I feel like maybe Jaylen Brown fills that void, but in my opinion, I would like to see the Sixers get a guy off the bench that can, defend the perimeter. But it's also Ben Simmons, the guy that, just couldn't fit in the city. There are some people that are not mentally tough for the city, and I don't. It's just tough. I don't think Ben Simmons was, nor will he ever be. So, in that respect, I am very anti Ben Simmons coming here. But I mean, I could. I'll put it this way: I could see the argument being made that this is a potentially good fit. But I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much you got to watch Ben Simmons as a Clipper, but I mean, defensively, it's pretty much gone, and that is really sad because it stems from the back issues. It stems from kind of the loss of athleticism that has come over the past couple of years because he suffered with injury so many times, and that was the reason why he inevitably got cut by the Clippers, was because kind of the traits that you would look for from Ben Simmons defensively just weren't there anymore. He doesn't move the same as he used to. So if you're looking for a fine guy who can I guess finish around the rim from the dunker spot, he's almost like an unathletic backup center now. And that's really, I mean, as a body, that would be fine, just because, again, I do think the Philadelphia 76ers need a legitimate backup center. But at that point, I really hope they do go out and re-sign Andre Drummond. I have been a proponent of that. I know people have conflicting opinions of Andre Drummond, but he gave them solid enough playoff minutes. He's still at an age where he can contribute on both ends of the floor. And we know he can eat up minutes in the regular season. So that would be my priority if we're talking about a backup big. And they only have one roster spot left. So
yeah,
that I don't think that roster spot's going to Ben Simmons.
No. Well,
or maybe even Andre Drummond, because they go out and they sign Ariel Hukporti, who we haven't talked about yet, who could very well end up being their backup center. And that's not something I would be thrilled about. He's a guy who had his ups and downs in New York, dealt with foul trouble a lot, as you kind of saw. You guys were watching, and they had that Sixers game where Mitchell Robinson gets in foul trouble, then Karl Anthony Towns subsequently gets in foul trouble, and then they have to throw Ariel Hukporti in, and Joel Embiid kind of tears him apart, and that's when the Sixers are able to get back in the game. I think that was game 3, if I'm remembering correctly. The first one in Philadelphia.
Was that the one that was kind of a blowout? No, that was game.
No, this was the one. This was the really the only one that was close, which I believe is game 3. So that's kind of the lasting memory of Ariel Hukporti, which isn't great. But he brings you athleticism. If he can figure out the IQ stuff defensively, I think he can be okay. He's kind of another Adem Bona, if you will. I'd rather someone a little more proven than another Adem Bona, but we'll see.
Yeah, I am also of the not Adem Bona fan club. I'm not a part of the Adem Bona.
I am the Adem Bona fan club. I just don't want to see him play backup center.
Listen, I think he's good defensively, but dude, he can't hit a shot to save his life.
He was fine in that playoff series. He made a couple of nice plays. He's super athletic. He's a great rebounder. It's just gotten to a point where he is of a mindset that he has 6 fouls and he's going to use them. And, that doesn't really play when you need somebody to spell Joel Embiid so that he's not playing 35 minutes a night and tears apart by the All-Star break.
That's true. Well, you want to talk about somebody that's proven. And I hate that I'm even doing this. I hate that they're giving me hope, just like they did in 2018. This LeBron stuff, it's not going away, man. It's just not. And it comes out today that the Sixers, the Lakers, the Heat, and the Cavs are basically the finalists.
And one to two other teams.
Well, okay, but yeah, I saw that. But give me the other 2 teams, damn it.
Well,
Name them.
Denver is one. And we don't know who the other one is. I can tell you Denver is one.
You're hearing who? Who was?
It was the Denver Post, I think, this morning, who reported it. So they're one.
Okay.
I suspect, if you're gonna ask me who I suspect, I suspect that Boston is the other one. That is what I suspect. But
oh my God. Well, we saw that with the Jaylen Brown thing. Again, this is like why I'm so confused. With that whole move, I really thought that listen, hey, there has to be another move coming after they traded Brown away. I don't think there is.
I don't think there's one in the immediate either. I think if they were to take LeBron, I do not think it would be because they traded Jaylen Brown, right? I think there is a distinct, we traded Jaylen Brown to get off of Jaylen Brown's salary so that we can create flexibility to get another star next summer. But it would not be surprising to me at all if Brad Stevens was like, we have the availability to try to sign LeBron James. We're going to try to do it. Would LeBron ever go to Boston? I don't think so. Just like I'm going to tell you in 5 minutes that I don't think LeBron would ever go to Philadelphia. But
yeah, hang on. Let me let me hit it with the right lower third. Okay, go again.
Yep. Yeah, this is not happening. I would love for it to happen. It would thrill me. I think it is more likely to happen now that the Philadelphia 76ers have traded for Jaylen Brown than it would have been otherwise. It seems like there is an actual connection between LeBron James and Jaylen Brown after the Bronny James incident 2 years ago at Summer League, which was quite a fun time. I was there for that game. I feel very proud to have been there for the game where Jaylen Brown dissed Bronny James and then angered LeBron.
It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's a great honor of mine. But it's going to be either Cleveland or Golden State. I believe that since the beginning. And I think it just makes the most sense, right? If you're going out towards the end of career, do you want to play with, a bunch of people who you're somewhat not really interconnected to in a city that is, as much as I love the city of Philadelphia, kind of cold and miserable at times for somebody who just got back from living in LA? Or would you rather play in the place that you called home for half your life, or stay in the beautiful warm weather and play with your best friend? Well, not your best friend, but your close friend. I think it just makes
him and Steph are close. Well,
him and Steph are incredibly close. Yeah, and him and Draymond are incredibly close as well. So I think it would make a lot more sense. Either of those destinations would make a lot more sense, and the Heat makes sense too. I'm just a little hesitant with the way he exited, if Pat Riley would ever do that again. But it's going to be fun and it's going to be interesting. That's for sure. Gansey and LeBron they did go to high school together. So that is another, but I don't know what the connection is like there.
Yep. That brings that up. Doesn't Maxey and LeBron share the same agency too?
I don't know if Maxey is a Rich Paul guy or not. I think there's a good chance of that. Yeah. Paul owns a lot of the manages a lot of the stars in the league. So yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. I know he's a Clutch Sports guy. I don't know if Rich Paul is his manager or not, but it's a whirlwind,
Yeah, but there's also a connection with the MB thing when they played in the Olympics together. So I'm not gonna discount it, but I don't think that this is gonna happen. Now, am I giving it a 0% chance? No, I'm not. Just because of the fact that I didn't think that Jaylen Brown was going to be a Sixer 48 hours ago. Yes. So, the Sixers, right now they are between, I saw between the Cavs, the Lakers, and, the Heat. they had the least amount of money basically to sign him. But I've also seen that LeBron has said that he would be willing to sign a vet minimum for, a contender. And right now, I feel like the Sixers are a contender. And, with the bad blood that him and Jaylen Brown had, that is apparently no longer a thing. So, am I putting it past them to sign LeBron? No, but I don't think it's necessarily the most likely, option.
Yeah, and that like you said is the sales pitch, right? They are of the 5 teams in contention. I think they're probably the second best team. I would still consider Cleveland to be a better team than them.
Hang on. You would consider Cleveland to be a better team than us?
I would, yeah.
Explain
as
that.
Currently constructed. I just think they fit better and they're deeper. I think the way that Donovan Mitchell has played not just these past couple postseasons, but these past couple regular seasons, he would be the best player in a series between the Sixers and the Cavs. And I think there is only upwards to go for them defensively. I'm still a big believer in Evan Mobley. I think he had a bit of a down year, but I'm expecting him to kind of rebound. Jared Allen was dealing with injury throughout pieces of last season, and I think, less reliance on James Harden through an investment in kind of their depth outside of Max Strus and the 3-and-D wings that they can put together for their team. I still think they can be incredibly interesting in the East.
Yeah. Talk about it, if you will. I hit on it a little bit. The fact that Paul George is no longer a Sixer. That's kind of crazy to me. But, again, if I was presented this deal, I would do it, 100 times out of 100.
Yeah. Yeah, I would too. I thought Paul George had a really great season last season when he played. I thought especially in the postseason, he was really key to their success. I thought he was, a real connector on offense, and then an overall positive on defense, if not the same athlete he was a year ago. And I think he's going to be a really good Boston Celtic because I think even more than Jaylen Brown, he fits what they want to do. He is a great spacer, and I think probably a better driver than Brown at times, right? He has a more consistent handle. And when he can be athletic, he can be athletic. How that continues to age at 36 years old is going to be a question, and we certainly saw times where it did not age well in Philadelphia. But he can certainly be a connective tissue for that team. So I think he's going to be really good for them. I am happy, though, that I don't have to pay him $50 million. And, I mean, it's a pretty obvious downgrade for them. And, they might not want a really good spacer. They might want, because we've seen it, and this is what I said on the podcast a couple hours ago. Every single year, the NBA attempts to kind of fit themselves around who just won the championship and how to attack that, right? This is the rare year where it does not seem like that is happening. It seems like teams are preparing themselves for the San Antonio Spurs. They're loading up on their front courts. They're loading up on how can we wear down Victor Wembanyama in the same sense that the Knicks did, right? And bring physicality around the rim to defend ourselves. You see Oklahoma City reinvest in Isaiah Hartenstein. You see the Celtics invest in Mitchell Robinson. But part of that as well is having inside-out versatility, right? Having size inside to be able to, force the issue against Wembanyama on the pick and roll, to force him to have to bite and open up things for your guards. And by losing Jaylen Brown, you're kind of backing away from that approach with his abilities and his explosiveness as a driver. So I think that is interesting from a Boston perspective as well.
Yeah, no, I agree there. I mean, Wembanyama, we saw, in the finals. The Knicks just absolutely, they bullied him. They really did. And I really thought that if the Spurs were going to win the finals, your stars would show up, and your stars did not. they didn't show up, which is a shame for them because I and a shame for the world at large because the Knicks won the finals, man. Like it is it's a tragedy. I like New York as a city. They're great, but you're talking about a city that has arguably some of the worst fans in all of the NBA.
There's a few rotten eggs everywhere, Jess.
Come on. Oh, well, listen. They can hit us with the oh my god. They threw snowballs at Santa Claus 2 years ago. You're throwing eggs at Wembanyama. You're beating up Spurs fans in the middle of the street. Like they're awful. They are the worst fans, and I don't know, if KJ is still watching, but he's 100% a hater of New York fans, and says that they are some of the worst fans in the NBA, and maybe I don't know if you would go this far, but they are to me that they're one of the worst fans in all professional sports. They're just to me they're that bad. But
I want to touch on because Ryan's saying some stuff in the chat. You want to grab this real quick?
Yeah.
Ryan, I am in agreement. Do you want to grab the second one? I'm in agreement with this one, and I think part of this comes from having a very Joel Embiid-centric team, right? Joel Embiid over the past couple of years, I mean, because of the injury woes, has grown to be kind of not a very good rim protector and not a very good rebounder on the other end, simply because he doesn't have the verticality to get up there. Jaylen Brown is a very good rebounder, but you're still going to be pretty small. And this is where a guy like Dean Wade comes in, who I think is going to be a really good hustle guy in a way similar to Paul George, but can really get around the rim and get tough boards and just be kind of a do-it-all player. Now, what we haven't touched on is I think how much this team is going to miss Kelly Oubre. And I was very upset that he went and signed in Indiana because I think he was, if you want to point to guys who are able to cater to this, one of the rare guys who was able to step in and make those kind of hustle plays as we often refer to them. So you're going to need to fill his energy and his presence, and they haven't yet to do that. And that is certainly a concern.
The best memory that I have, and this has been posted on Twitter.
You're a bitch.
Well, I wasn't gonna say the words, but yeah. Yeah.
I was at that game.
You were at that game?
I was at that game. That was my birthday present that year.
Oh my God.
Yep.
Shout out. There's this great guy that I collab with all the time on Instagram. He's a Bring Back Hip Hop. That's his account name. And, he's a proponent of the Bring Back Hip Hop thing, which, I at least in this house, I fully 100% support. I think Franklin is, frankly, washed. And I think, hip hop clears. Regardless. He said, we were talking about this the other day. He said that this is also, that was also his first game that he ever went to in person. He'd always watched them on the TV. That is the first game that he went to, as in person as a Sixers fan. Yeah. I will say my mother, who you met again last night, can kind of concur. Her first Sixers game was. Do you remember the regular season game when Embiid, almost got a shot off? At the last, it was the almost buzzer beater. It was like a regular season game.
There's been a lot of those. Who are they playing?
Boston.
Yes,
they were wearing the all whites.
Yes, I do remember that. That was awful.
Yeah,
that was a horrible game. I'm sorry. Has your mother been to a Sixers game since?
Nope.
Yeah, there's probably a good reason for that.
because of that exact reason. Yeah. Which I do not exactly, blame her for.
Yeah, your mother is a smart woman. She knows to stay away from that place.
She absolutely is. Yeah. Do you want to address that?
Would be good. Herb Jones is going to cost 2 first-round picks, and I don't see the Sixers. Oh, the Sixers don't have 2.
No, they don't, especially now after they.
Yeah,
no.
that kind of solves that one.
Yeah,
but yes, Herb Jones would be perfect. I love Herb Jones. He's one of my favorite guys. Him and Trey Murphy drives me crazy that they're buried over there in New Orleans, but they just don't have the assets to be able to do that.
No.
Unless you want to throw LeBron and Philon over there. I think they take that.
I don't know if we would trade LeBron and Philon after we just drafted it for him, man. But I don't know. What would you get? What would you give? You were talking about this earlier, and I think I 100% agree because, I mean, Jaylen Brown obviously can rebound. I cannot name a name that can consistently rebound. I mean, Joel maybe, but that's when he's healthy, and he's never healthy.
Yeah.
So Drummond was a guy, in my opinion, that could consistently rebound. But again, you have what, 4.5 million left? I think.
No, Drummond is expired. So Drummond is a free agent, and that is the issue. You really don't have. I mean, you have 1 roster spot left, but if it goes to Drummond, you don't really have a backup wing still. And you're playing Justin Edwards 25 minutes a night, which would kind of drive me crazy. So that would
also drive me nuts.
Yeah. I don't know if Jabari Walker is going to end up being a casualty here. That's something that I think would possibly be for the better. He's a guy who I think played all right last season, but wasn't quite the sensation that Dominic Barlow was. So I would be fine moving on there and having Ariel Hukporty be kind of his replacement, and then signing Drummond. But it's going to be a question throughout the offseason. And, they have 2 different very big needs that need filling.
Well, I mean, do you think that the Sixers would trade Broom, especially now that we got Simons? I don't know. Broom to me was a guy that he was a nothing burger to me. It really was.
Yeah. Well, he's still on a 2-way deal. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm pretty sure he doesn't even count on the roster. I think this is as currently constructed without counting him. But yes, I do think they would trade him. I think they would be willing to do that. And if they don't, he's a guy who I wouldn't mind giving a shot and promoting at some point, just because I think, we talked about backup center, right? And just having a guy who can be active on the boards, and that is literally Todd can advocate for this. That is literally all Janai Broom did at Auburn. It is tally up boards and hit contested mid-range shots and bring everything as far as effort on offense, even if he was a little limited on defense. So I think that would be the benefit to having him for the Sixers.
Yeah, I'm curious. What I just don't know if the Sixers I think we need another piece or 2, but I don't know if they just I don't think they have the cash for it. So I'll ask you this: what is our depth looking like with the Blue Coats? Because I mean, you could always go there.
Yeah, I mean, it's not particularly great, considering a lot of those guys are now that were real sensations there are now a part of the roster, right? Like Jabari Walker, who I just talked about, Dom Barlow, who I talked about, and Broom are kind of the centerpieces there. And 2 of those guys are on the active roster. One of them is now over. So I think that's crucial. I would love to trade Edwards for a better piece. I don't know who's going to take Justin Edwards though.
I think
I don't know, man. He was unplayable in a playoff series.
He was, but down the stretch
fell
of
out
the
of the
regular
rotation
season
multiple times throughout the regular season. I think his value would be essentially a second round pick in cash considerations. So, I mean, if you just wanted to cut ties, I think that and clear up a roster spot, I think that would be doable. But it is tough to imagine, them really getting anything for him. So, but I do think Jabari Walker, cutting or sending Jabari Walker down and then clearing up a spot for Andre Drummond to come in, I think that is the move. And then you go out and you sign either Matisse Thybulle, you're going to laugh, Matisse Thybulle, or like if you can get Spencer Jones away from Denver, I think that would be nice. So there's the Adam Den dream, if you will.
That's fair. Yeah, Spencer Jones. I'm just no. I don't want Spencer Jones from the Yankees. He's arguably much better prospect, but I'm just it looks like he's having contract issues with the Nuggets. So
yeah, I mean he did all the little things for them. We just talked about all the little things that the Sixers need. Like, he was a tough rebounder. He's a good but not great shooter. And when Nikola Jokic was out, was a really physical defender. Kind of playing some backup 4 minutes, and even sometimes backup 5 minutes when they look to go small. So I think he would be a real asset for them.
Yeah.
He said he won't. So Ryan has a good point there. He said he won't. But I don't know what the market is. Like, I don't. Is somebody gonna pay Andre Drummond more than $2.4 million per year after kind of what we've seen at points throughout the regular season? I'm not totally sure. So
yeah, I mean Drummond. He's getting up there in age. He's
36 years
big
old.
Man. He is old. To be fair, he is a 2-time All-Star.
Yeah. But 10 years ago, I mean, that was in Detroit. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that was 10 years ago at this point. So.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I just and the whole quote is, "I'm not willing to play for less than my worth."
But his worth might be $2.4 million. And the Sixers have the vet minimum. They technically have more than that available. So I think, whether it goes to Andre Drummond or LeBron James is kind of going to be the question.
well,
two big superstar pieces right there.
Oh my God. Yeah. I think I would much rather the guy that, how do I put this? He's won a few championships here or there. A few.
Andre Drummond has the all defensive teams. Like, Andre Drummond probably has the rebounding title from 10 years ago. Like, come on now.
And to be fair, defense does kind of sort of blow. But I mean, the biggest question, I think the role of, and then we'll kind of wrap this up. I think the Joel Embiid question. I think it is a question that should be asked. Again, his role in this team. I think we're definitely seeing the back end of it, or that the decline, if you will. For Embiid. But I think the question can definitely be asked this year. What is his role? Because we've seen it time and time again. When he's on the field, when he's on the court, he balls out and he gives you 30 points a night. It's just how he's wired. But he's not on the court as often. And Portnoy goes, if Dave Portnoy goes, the Sixers are, if Embiid is healthy, the Sixers are championship contenders, but that's $1,000,001 question. I don't know. I think I'm at the point where, like, the Sixers, obviously they're not trading him. They haven't moved on from him, but I think now they have enough of a foundation to kind of, to make him, kind of not as big a part of the picture.
Yeah, I mean that is the hope, right? But I don't think it's the inevitability, right? I think you have over these past couple years not built around Joel Embiid. You built the foundation to have, Tyrese Maxey and Jaylen Brown be the future. But at the same time, by trading for Jaylen Brown, you are kind of locking yourself into a competitive timeline. And the best resource for you during a competitive timeline is not trading Joel Embiid for pennies on the dollar. So in that sense, you do kind of lock yourself into Joel Embiid because you're not going to make a move kind of similar to the Jaylen Brown trade for the Celtics, right? That might hurt you in the short term, but frees up flexibility in the long term because you've paid to win now. Jaylen Brown's contract, the giant one that he signed last summer, expires in 3 years. Joel Embiid's contract expires in 3 years. That is not a coincidence. So I think for the immediate future, it is Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe, Jaylen Brown, Joel Embiid, and maybe, God willing, I guess, LeBron James, as you see in the graphic below you. But yeah, it's get ready for a fun ride, guys.
Yeah. Oh, there was one more. Actually, there was one more question that came to mind. And then then I'll wrap things up because I gotta get to a fireworks show.
This is the fireworks show, Jess. We just traded for Jaylen Brown.
You're damn right about that. But do you think it is speaking of coincidences? Do you think it is a coincidence that that the contract for Jaylen Brown is going to end after 3 years, and then in 3 years, I think VJ Edgecombe is going to be eligible for a heftier contract.
Yeah, an extension.
Do you think that is a coincidence or
not in any way? Not in any way. I think they really thought about pairing like I said, the Embiid and Brown timeline together. Jaylen Brown will be 32, 33 when that contract expires, and then they have a decision to make, right? Has this gone well? Does he want to retire a Sixer? Do the Sixers want to continue to push their competitive window? Or, do they look to tear it down, right? Oh, man, this didn't really work out. We're going to let Jaylen Brown walk, or maybe they trade him the year before. Joel Embiid's contract isn't expiring now. We can look to flip that for some picks. Maybe Tyrese Maxey is not really, happy with the situation because the Sixers haven't been winning as much as they want to, and they can throw it all away.
If Tyrese Maxey turns into the next, AJ Brown, I'm gonna lose my mind.
Well, it's not being an AJ Brown if they, lose in the first round or don't make the playoffs or whatever. I would totally be understanding if he wanted out. So it's these kind of moves very rarely end well. However, the small chance that they end right makes them almost always investments that teams are willing to take. And the Philadelphia 76ers are taking that risk, and we're going to find out whether it works or not.
We're going to find out indeed. But I want to thank you all for watching this edition of Philly Sports Pulse. Was, quite the insane last 48 hours. We didn't even hit the Eagles. The training camp starts in about a month. So it's just great.
We got 3 weeks to do that. We just traded for a 6-time All-Star. They'll have plenty of our time.
That's fair. We can leave WIP to that stuff.
Yeah. I'm sure they're all over it.
Yeah. But thank you, Todd, for the support, man. As always. Yep. Thank everybody. Thank
we gotta get you on some Janai Broom highlights, man. Get ready.
All right, man. Well, thank you all for the support. Thanks for watching. Thanks to Mike Yancey for saving this Philadelphia 76ers. And let's go, Sixers.